Shalom. I'm back again with another interview. I'm here with Horahliel, and it's good to be here to interview my brother.
Hallelujah.
Now, what I'm doing with the NGO, the goal is within the NGO. One of the aspects of the NGO is to unite Hebrew Israelites. And I feel like that Demona is one of the biggest examples of building institutions. Within the Hebrew Israelite community, because I believe institutions, is going to be the ones that's going to allow us to be recognized as a nation.
Okay.
And like I said, I believe Demona is like the biggest example of that, and I'm honored to be able to conduct this interview with you. Let's get into these questions.
Sure, please.
So now before we get into these questions, can you explain to the viewers who you are, tell them about yourself, tell them how you got connected with the Demona community and everything. Just give them a brief, summary about who you is and what you got going on.
Okay. First and foremost, I want to give all praise and honor to the God of Israel, to our spiritual leader, Ben-Ami, who was responsible for having a vision that's created everything you see here in Demona. It came from his mind, you know what I'm saying? His motivation and his tenacity. But myself, my name is Horahliel, which means Minister Horahliel, Ben Yehuda, the Minister of Divine Distribution in the community. And I work in various capacities. I also work in the area of international affairs, because I do a lot of travel internationally. I've been doing that for years. I'm originally from Texas. I came up, at the time that I came across the kingdom, I had no idea about anything relative to Hebrew Israelites or anything of that nature.
Okay.
I ran into a brother named Horahliel, which is one of the priests in the community, in San Antonio, Texas. Matter of fact, his sister was the one that actually introduced me to the whole idea of Hebrew Israelites and the idea of making a connection between the Holy Land and black people. She would always talk to me about the brothers in Jerusalem. And you got to remember, this was back in 1978, 79.
Yeah.
I had no inkling of making a connection between those two ideas.
Yeah.
Because my understanding of Israel as a modern state had nothing to do with black people. You understand? So it sparked something in me to want to put me on a journey and a quest to learn.
Gotcha.
You understand? To get into the biblical, the spiritual side of what was happening with us as black people. Because I'm originally from Texas, born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and it's pretty, fundamental background, Christian. My mother was a Roman Catholic, father was a Baptist, and our people lived in somewhat of a dichotomy in terms of their religious faiths and beliefs.
Yeah.
And back during that time, for them to get married, the arrangement had to be that the children would be raised up as Roman Catholics. Because my father was a Baptist.
Okay.
You understand? So that was one of the conditions of their marriage. But nevertheless, as I was growing up, I tended to be a little bit closer to the Catholic side of things. In that going to Catholic church, being an altar boy, all this rigmarole, you know what I'm saying? And really didn't know much about the whole thing about Baptists. Didn't grow up with any kind of sense of some strong religious kind of background. What I felt more so than anything, I grew up with in a background that principles of right and wrong were taught to us. I think that was a common denominator in most of our backgrounds as black people. Your parents wanted to teach you the right thing. Be a good person. Do this, do that. You know what I'm saying? So consequently, that's the kind of path I was kind of set on. And then so when it came down to me getting introduced to the idea of the Hebrews and what that took on as from a biblical standpoint, it made things make even more sense. And because I had always been taught strong principles of logic and right and wrong, I could easily recognize the difference in the principles of what Hebrews stood for.
Yeah.
You know, from a more spiritual, philosophical standpoint.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay. Yeah.
And which I always feel was it was good that I came the way I did, not knowing anything.
Yeah.
Because as I look and as I traveled this globe and encountered many of the different Hebrew camps and,
Yeah.
and isms and schisms,
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of that would have appealed to me because of who I am,
Yeah,
you know,
I got you.
and my background, you know.
Mhm.
But you know, I'm thankful for the route that I took. I'm thankful that I came this route because I don't see me. I just don't see me any of that other stuff appealing to me like that. You know, not like it might not have spurred some thought, but something that had the ability to commit me to an idea and a purpose as such. It had to be cloaked in pretty much like the kingdom is. I felt it was a doctrine of sanity.
Okay.
When I say sanity, I mean it wasn't extreme in the sense of how you see how Hebrews are depicted
Yeah.
as some kind of religious fanatics.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And you see how they do
Yeah.
the different how on social media, the
Mhm.
media portrays us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's been going on for a while, and I know that's all a part of another scheme
Mhm.
to delegitimize the validity of the claim of being the heirs to the throne
Yeah.
of the ancient Hebrews.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's easy to say, you know, from the fanatical man, you hear what they're saying? Hey, what are they talking about, you know?
Mhm.
So
right on.
I'm just blessed, you know what I'm saying, to be to have always been a sound thinking kind of brother.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And believe me, I know there's all kind of brothers and sisters I run into every day, and they're not attached to a spiritual ground of any sort, but they're good people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the difference.
Gotcha.
I run into people, and I never was born or was groomed to look at things from some narrow kind of context.
Mhm.
That's just not me. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Mm.
No, I definitely feel what you're saying. You know, everything was going on, you know, in the States with the different, you know, Hebrew Israelite,
Sure.
you know, camps and sects and things like that. They not really, you know, mobilizing and you know, and building institutions and really, you know, showing that, you know, we, you know, can put destiny back into our own hands in a certain way. They still, you know, they still are confused to me. You know what I'm
A lot
saying?
of it is still based on a lot of religious fanaticism.
Yeah.
And let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the growth and evolution of the principles and the teachers have been of me,
Mm-hmm.
there have been things that have came to us or visions and thoughts and ideas that have came on this path that was inspired by Vietnamese thinking.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was the knowledge of identity versus the knowledge of redemption.
Yeah.
And what it that allowed for me to put in context all of this stuff that I see the Hebrews, because they're all up in the air because they found out that the people of the Bible were the ancient Hebrews.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
But did it take them on to the element of, like you say, building institutions?
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Self-government?
Yeah.
They're still, their lives are still very much correlated in the Western societies, other societies that they find themselves in.
Right on.
You know, at least with Vietnamese vision, it extracted us out of that.
Yeah.
You know what
And
I'm
I
saying?
definitely I look at that like, you know, that's like a real good example of where we need to go to, you know, as a people, you know, and I respect that, you know, to the fullest. Now let me jump into these questions, man. You see, you say you from Texas, you were down south, you from the dirty down south. But let me ask you this,
Right.
so living outside of America, outside of Babylon,
Mhm.
you know, what's 3 spiritual benefits of living outside of America living outside of the land of captivity. Like, what's give the viewers like, some three beneficial, advice you can give them, or those three benefits, that you
Living
can give
outside.
people. Yeah, living outside of our land of our captivity.
Well, number one is self-determination. Okay, self-determination in the sense that we're not governed by the dictates and the laws and statutes of another man superimposing their will into our lives, to where it's governing our coming and going.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It also has allowed our children to grow up in an environment where they don't look at themselves as the tail. They grew up always looking at themselves as the head. They've never been, when it comes down to the idea of racial imperative of any sort, the children don't feel that, because they look at Israelis, they look at the Europeans as who they are. You understand what I'm saying? And they're not looking at them like they're the head, or they like in America, these kids grow up with the sole idea of European superiority, African inferiority. Our kids don't grow up like that. Just the opposite. You know what I'm saying? And they're very feisty in the sense of putting things in context as to who they are as a person and an individual, to determine their comings and goings and what they do.
Okay.
They're not inhibited. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
And the third thing I would say would be the fact that the challenge of building a new world and building a new idea is something that our people have never took hold to. Because our people have been so stigmatized by so many different, so many schools of thought.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean that our people have always never felt like whatever it was, and to reach the epoch of a matter, we wasn't the ones for it. You got to be talking about somebody else. When we start talking about things such as Daniel 2:44, and what that implies to us spiritually, and in a natural sense environmentally, it's a great job to put yourself in the stead of that level of greatness, of that level of spiritual responsibility. You understand? But we're freed from that because we're not under the stigmas of America. So much about America is just it's stigma. Our people are stigmatized. And a lot of times, people, they don't even know it. Because they just got into this routine, back and forth, that's such and so, this, that, and the other. So when I look at things such as those things, and particularly comes down to our children. Hey man, I have 16 children are born in Israel. You understand what I'm saying? And I see how they relate to outside of here. I got 6 children currently that's living in America, and it's understood because, believe me, children ain't no different. When I came up in Beaumont, hey listen, my parents didn't quite get me talking about leaving America, going to Israel. Because that was very extreme. Because I was supposed to stay in Beaumont, Texas, get a job at Mobil Oil, stay there till I'm 60, 70 years old, retire, and that was that. Man, that's not the life I ascribe to. You understand what I'm saying? So the fact of being here, it was hey, when they find, and I know initially when I first came here, I guarantee they were parents like anybody else's parents. Or he just on a whim or whatever. Just give him time. You'll be back.
It's gonna fade away. They thought,
Man, listen, I've gone home because I want to keep all this stuff real. I try to keep all these kind of things very personal. I've gone home to Beaumont, Texas, and I've had brothers that ask me, "Hey man, well, when you think you coming home, man?" I said, "Home." I said, "Man, I'm visiting you cats. My home is 7,000 miles from here, bro." You know what I'm saying? But I didn't want them to get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Hey, my home, my family, they live outside of America. You understand what I'm saying? My children, I mean, they're there because they make choices. You understand? There's no difference. Children growing up in life, as much as we as parents would like to them to follow the set path that we may have in our minds, it always happen like that. You know, and that's just real.
Wow, man, you say you got 16 children born in Israel. That's a big, you know, what we'll call breaking the chains. You know, breaking the curses right there.
Sure,
you know, that's a big shift.
35 grandchildren.
35 grandchildren.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Wow.
All of them born, you know.
Born.
Well, except the two that were born by previous marriage in America.
Wow, that's a blessing though. That's a blessing, man.
Hallelujah.
Interesting, man. And one thing you said, you know, our people in America, they stigmatize, you know, and they stagnant too, because America keeps them stagnant, keeps them comfortable, you know, comfortability to where they don't wanna you know, work to make a real transition, you know, like the Demona community did. They don't wanna do that, you know. They'll go out and visit, you know, they'll go to Dominican Republic. They won't even go to visit Africa. They scared. They call themselves Hebrews. They scared to go visit Africa.
Listen. I mean, and that's everywhere I go. I mean, I've been extensive for 7 years. I worked in and out of the UK, so which allowed me to do a lot of traveling in Europe. And man, everywhere I've gone and interacted with Hebrew communities or brethren and sisters that was of Hebrew thought in these areas. That's a very much. They maintain a very, very narrow kind of understanding in terms of where they are, because everything is just based upon the biblical tenets that identify with us being the biblical Hebrews.
Yeah, that's it. It just stopped right there.
It stopped right there. And you know, that's what I said, the knowledge of identity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they don't read past the spiritual responsibility that goes with that.
Yeah.
You understand? The identification of fire is fine.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to the building of a new world, you understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
The building of institutions.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? They can't put that in context.
Yeah, they'll be on the corner street preaching all day long.
Listen,
we can't build a school for the community.
Every Saturday in every Shabbat in London, Brixton Station, the brothers is down there fire and brimstone. Every Shabbat, I've been down there how many times. And you know, it's always saying, you know, I kind of stand off, look, listen at the brothers, and you know, sometimes they encounter, sometimes they don't. You know what I'm saying? But I see that's the sum total of it. There's no sense of community built into that. The common sense, the common thread is the fact that we ascribe to the same school of thought. You understand what I'm saying? So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's right. Right though, man. Let me ask you this. So, what type of mindset should a diaspora brother or sister have, you know, while living in Africa? You know, like what type of mindset should a brother or sister have, you know, living abroad, living in Africa, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in, you know, Kenya, Tanzania, you know, Ghana. Like what type of mindset should they have, you know, when they're living, you know, in the land of Eden, in Africa, you know?
What kind of mindset? Well, number one, they should be thankful that they've escaped the throes and the bounds of the European in America. They've escaped America for one thing, and then they have to think to connect with other individuals, maybe other communities that are progressive thinking. Because I'm not naive enough to think everybody's going to be a Hebrew Israelite. I ain't that naive. You understand what I'm saying? And anybody out there thinking like that, don't do that, because people are not. You know what I'm saying? So with that in mind, I think there's a common thread of people that have grown tired of the rigors and the everyday coming and going of the same repetition of the system of being in America,
Mm-hmm.
and they've grown tired of that, and they want to experience something else.
Yeah.
But you have to begin to look for like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
Because everywhere I travel, Brother Bilal, I'm running into brothers and sisters from everywhere. I ran into a brother in Amsterdam about 6 months ago. The brother, he lives in Belfast, Northern Ireland, but he's working for a company there because he just told me, he said, man, I couldn't take America no more. Had nothing to do with Hebrew Israelites. You know, but that stuff it ran in cycle. You know what I'm saying? Good brother. You know what I'm saying? Not because when I'm moving in the circles I'm moving in globally, I ain't talking about neighborhood. I'm talking about this global. See, most of the time you're running to people that are looking at you just like you're looking at me. I wonder what that brother you do. I wonder what's going on with this sister. You find them something they're in transitional states because of work or whatever. But sometimes you can, when you have these little conversations, you find out that the common thing that the people are always saying is that they just kind of got, they grew tired of America, and they wanted to do something else. They had enough of it. You understand what I'm saying? So anybody that's living abroad, hey, continue to network and link up with those other brothers and sisters that have progressive thoughts, want to do things, want to build things in a positive mode, because there's so much that we are stigmatized by through that experience in America. Hey man, I'm in Amman, Jordan. I'm moving through Amman, and I see the little Arab kids. They hear me say something because they detect that American accent, and they, hey man, what's up? What's up, man? Hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Because that's how they see black people in America, man. These television how they've been stigmatized on television. Every brother cool. Every brother got this swag about it. Man, that's so shallow. You understand what I'm saying? That's so shallow. But there's so many brothers and sisters that don't even fit into that category. I don't know the last time I ran into someone in my travels, and that's how that energy drew me to them. And I already see that from the get-go. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's true. They try to, box us in with the TV. Try to box us in.
Sure.
Like that's this. When you see a black American, what they call it, when you see a black American, this is what they about. This is hip hop, or this is this. Try to box us in, in a certain box. But one thing you're saying is very interesting, man. But this is not just, just specifically dealing with just us being Hebrew Israelites. This is us being open-minded, as a people. Being open-minded as melanated people. And in networking with other open-minded melanated people, so we can proceed to the next level, that we need to go to as a people.
Sure, as a people, sure. And believe me, I've met over the years, I've met a lot of good brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? And normally get in contact with them, because when you move in certain circles, you're gonna run into people of a like consciousness, so to speak. You understand? I've invited many people here to Israel over the years that came to see, because they were impressed by what my conversation was with them. They may not have known nothing about it. You understand? But hey, they get this. They looking at me like, wow, bro, y'all did what? You know what I'm saying? Hey, And aside from that, we as our community, our culture, and is another distinguishing factor. Because I know me, I don't think I got. You can count. I could probably count the number of anything I got that isn't culturally making a cultural statement. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I don't wear suits as they know them. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I wear Hebrew culture. I mean, quite naturally, things that we identify with the one of the fringes and the cords of blue, etc. But just style wise, you understand? I'm not carrying it as just no, hey, that's a brother in a dashiki. That ain't what I'm, that ain't me at all. You know what I'm saying? In particular, having a wife that's a stylist and a seamstress, that only adds to the, you know what I'm saying, to the ambience of the visual.
Yeah.
Because believe me, bro, I can tell you, brother, I don't even think I ever walked through an airport or anywhere and somebody or another ain't saying, brother this, brother that, brother and the brothers in Chicago. I'm in Chicago about 8 months ago. I'm getting ready to go into a store. Little young brother pull up in the car, one of them little brother type brothers. He say, hey bro, when you get through my suit, drop it off at my house. You know what I mean? Man, I fell out, man. But I'm saying again, a look. You understand what I'm saying? It says something. And people got to see and feel something when they encounter you. Because they know you just not know anybody. You understand what I'm saying? And I never knew that before I became conscious. Because consciousness, as a result of outward consciousness, the inward consciousness begins to be an expression as an outward consciousness. You understand what I'm saying? And people, it's like magnetism. People draw to you. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Hey, I can tell you so many stories about good brothers and sisters I met, because I spent a lot of time in airports. So I'm saying when I'm outside of here, a lot of time in the airport. So I met all kind of good brothers and sisters waiting in the line to get on the plane. This kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? You're traveling to South Africa, and you go through Ethiopia. Ain't nobody, a handful of brothers and sisters on the plane, dominated by European people. I'm on the plane one night. I'm flying from Tel Aviv to Johannesburg, and all of a sudden we hit some turbulence, and the plane like dips, make this dip, and this little white girl sitting next to me. She's screaming, holler, and she said, what she did? She said, that didn't scare you? I said, I told her, I looked at her, because she never saw me look up from what I was doing. I looked up at her, I said, this plane here, baby, this one ain't going nowhere.
Straight up.
You know what I'm saying? I'm one of the sons of light, and the sons of life are on this plane. And it's precious cargo here. You understand what I'm saying? So, because you got to know who you are in this.
Exactly.
You can't be continuing to be seeking to find out if you are or you're not. At some point, you got this whole idea of being a Hebrew and the chosen. There's responsibility that comes with it, but it's also accountability to it. You understand? Once you have centralized that outward consciousness with that inward consciousness, that's a great responsibility you have. And
Now, I'm gonna go to question 3. Living in Israel for all these years, what's the main life lesson you learned, just in general? Just in living in Israel for all these years.
The main life lesson I've learned. It would have to be something in and around the idea of the appreciation for your fellow man. I hear so much about, and I see so much of it, in America, where the common thread of community that I grew up with, it doesn't exist anymore like that. People don't know their next door neighbors. They don't have a sense of community that I grew up in. I grew up in if I was somewhere down the street doing something that wasn't crazy as a kid, Miss Doom would call me and I would whip my butt. You understand? And they say, that boy down there does such and so, does such and so.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And I get home, ain't nothing I can say.
Mm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But today, it ain't like that. You know what I'm saying? There's no sense of community. But here we still maintain a very, very high sense of the community idea.
Yeah.
And looking out for community welfare.
Yeah.
You know, all things in common. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we all live together, and we all have shared common concerns. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing I can appreciate now because it's diminished so much in the world that ain't popular no more.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find it here and there in some communities are still, I don't want to say use the word primitive, but
Mm-hmm.
I like but that are not as attached to modernism,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's one of the greatest things I've learned because, hey, all these children are not children in that sense.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I saw a young brother the other day. I knew our Passover was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
He's a young brother, hard-working young son in the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was out. I was exercising. He was out with his kids. Or, hey, I saw him say, "So I shoot the children well. Knew our Passover coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, call my wife. She can say, look, hey, I need you to pick up such, such.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because hey, it ain't just on the son. You know, the son as a servant and a father that he has grown up to know me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, he was like, told that. And it was just a thought that mattered to him.
Yeah.
That I saw something, and I knew our Passover was coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and I know how the ambience of New World with things and our dress and this, that, and the other. Hey, he was so appreciative of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that's something that just comes out of my soul. That's all I do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I do I have access to things outside of the box, so to speak.
Yeah.
You understand? Because that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? We understand that blessings come through these mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Palau, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want to be blessed, do right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, see outside of just your own reality.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
No, right on. So that community feel, you know, is what you gain from being, out here in the moment.
Yeah, it's grown exponentially.
Yeah.
The whole idea of community.
And I see it, with the families out here, people, running in and out each other's houses,
Sure.
it's like a big neighborhood
Man, what
family.
you talking about? Yeah, of course. And when the word Passover comes, this is the season that you're here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Man, you go and you find out. I want you to imagine this.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine me. I got 16 children.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine at I'm gonna say at any epoch of from the oldest to the youngest, I would easily have 10, 12 children at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about between the oldest and the youngest,
Mm-hmm.
because quite naturally you got to go through the matriculation of them getting old and moving out and everything.
Yeah.
But I would on standard, anywhere between 12 children.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you imagine everything that's going on in a household during that cycle in preparation for a time like New World Passover?
It's a lot going on, man.
Listen. 2 days. I mean, that's everybody got. The girls got 2 outfits. The boys got 2 outfits. You get gym shoes. There's everybody. The girls always gonna want. They got gym shoes and sandals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those girls, they're gonna be with the dainty stuff. Always, I gotta get gym shoes and sandals for the girls. Where the boys, they got sneakers. They cool for the most part. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A little lower maintenance, so to speak.
Yeah.
And can you imagine the morning of getting ready, getting everybody dressed, girls braiding hair. Man, my house is like Grand Central Station, bro. Look at Palau. What's so funny now?
Yeah.
My wife keeps telling me, say, why you keep buying all this fruit? You understand? And really, it's just force of habit.
Yeah.
Having all these children, you know what I'm saying? She said, you don't even have, ain't nobody there but now. It's just reduced to me and my wife and my youngest daughter. And she's 22, 23. You understand what I'm saying? So they like, no baby no more.
Yeah.
But, it's just me always. But then now New World Passover coming. Yeah, one of my daughters is coming back from the States. The one that's a flight attendant, she's coming in, so she'll be here for a few days from the world. And then all the children that live around Israel, everybody gonna be at Saba's house, which Saba means grandfather. They'll be at my house, and everybody be there. The food, everybody eats collectively. You know, with my wife and my daughter went to Portugal the other night, and I called and she said, I can't talk right now. We're working on the menu for New World Passover. And look at man, I know that's serious business, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I gotta be like, okay, I'll call you back later. Cool. Yeah.
Right on.
Oh yeah, man. But this greater sense of community, man.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Nah, that's pretty cool.
Man. I love it, man. Seriously.
That's pretty
And
cool.
people gotta see. Let me tell you something about the kingdom, brother. About this community. This ain't no spectator sport, brother. You got to get the essence of it. You got to be involved with it, man. You understand what I'm saying? You got to be involved with it, man. And I want it. You understand what I'm saying? I want every aspect of it.
Yeah. No, right on.
Yeah.
I feel it, man. I feel it. I'm looking forward to the New World Path. I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely, anticipating it, man. For sure.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm trying to know you are.
So let me ask you this question now. In your opinion, why don't most Hebrew Israelites really want to take those steps to move out of America? In your opinion, what do you think?
Simple. Fear. Fear of the unknown. You understand? So you gotta realize, no guts, no glory, bro. And people want to do things on condition. They want to be doing things on condition that this will be there, that'll be there. Bro, you can't build no world. You can't build no new world if you somewhat pensive and you somewhat thinking, well, I wonder what's gonna happen. Bro, hey, you got to go, like we say in Hebrew, Kadima Yah Umila. Straightforward with Yah, come with me. You understand what I'm saying? But that's the biggest problem. This is a fear of the unknown. Yeah, on the real side.
People feel what they don't know.
Sure.
But sometimes on the other side, something that it's a saying that they say the grasses ain't green on the other side. But sometimes the grass is can be the brightest green.
On the real, yeah. On the real, yeah.
Man, that's interesting, man. Very interesting. Let me ask you this right here.
Go ahead.
Now, in your opinion, why can't we come together, as Hebrew Israelites with our different sects and our different ideology? Why can't we just find fundamental, commonality and be like, what, this is what we need to do, as Hebrew Israelites? Why do you think all your years, being in this walk, like, what do you think is holding us back from doing that?
What I've encountered for the most part over the years is that with our community, because we've always unabatedly acknowledged Ben-Ami as the leader. You understand? The forefather. You know what I'm saying? The founder. I would want to form that. And a lot of times people had this thing with us in particular because they felt that we were giving too much credit to a person, a man.
Yeah, there were some people saying. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've ran across this a lot of places. You know what I'm saying? But what they didn't simply understand about it wasn't about us making a man God. We were talking about God and the man. Quite a bit of difference. You understand what I'm saying? And we couldn't deny his prophetic responsibility and how after the vision came to him, he went through a process and a cycle of putting things in motion to fulfill the vision.
Give credit to what credit due.
And that's when it comes down to it. You know what I'm saying? And because a lot of times I find and it's just me,
Mhm.
I find that in encountering a lot of these different groups,
Mhm.
I find that most of the time, the heads of them are just basically biblically astute, that they've drawn people into the biblical narrative of it all,
Mhm.
that this is who they kind of revere.
Mhm.
You know, because I've invited a couple. Hey, I've invited a couple of them up here. You understand, from the States. There's a group out of that New York area that they're all around America. They came here some years ago, and then the leader of them was with them. And I'm gonna just be honest with you, I wasn't impressed. Brother knew the Bible, but when it went past that, very narrow.
Nothing practical.
Nothing
Yeah.
practical. Nothing that would lend toward any kind of substantive building of anything. You understand what I'm saying? And again, it has something to do with narrow vision, Bilal.
Yeah.
They say what? They say, well, there's no vision. They say the people perish. Vision is so important to this process. You can't move forward without it. You understand? Even though Benjamin himself, it's been 10 years since he ascended, since he made transition, since when he went to another sphere. Listen, but we're still motivated by some of the thoughts and some of the ideas, because this idea in which he planted, it ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, and I see it. You know,
This kingdom idea ain't going nowhere.
I see it, man. I see it. I'm definitely involved with y'all. You know, I feel like when it comes to Hebrew Israelites, I feel like Demona needs to be, looked at as the prime example.
Right,
You know,
I
for
agree
that,
with you.
you know,
I agree with you.
and that's why I'm, here to build a very good relationship. You know what I'm saying? With
Sure.
the Lord, because
Sure.
I believe in that. I believe in that.
Mhm.
I give credit to what credit is due.
Sure,
That's the only way we're gonna move forward.
Sure.
You know.
Sure, and we gotta listen to something else too. These things, as much as they tend to give the appearance that they're personality driven, but that's a very small aspect of it. They're principally driven. They're ideally driven by the concepts and precepts in which we live by and how we govern our lives. You know, that's more important than the personality. The personalities have they're part of the process, because there's some dynamic personalities here in the kingdom. You understand? Some of the former princesses and whatnot, man. The princesses and other levels of leadership were men like you never. My personal mentor. Hey man, that man was a giant. You know what I'm saying? But yet still he gave way, because Ben-Ami had his office in terms of being the what we say in Hebrew, manhi. You know what I'm saying? Like the leader. You understand? But the brother that I grew up under and for years has studied up under, hey man, Prince Shaliach, a historian, a hermeneutical, a biblical scholar. You understand what I'm saying? Couldn't find another brother that was so magnetizing. I mean, this guy, man, you ain't never seen, man, listen, you never seen a man like this. You know what I'm saying? And it was holy, man, to be in that man's company for years and years and years. And let me tell you what happens, man, when things happen. Pull out, life is something, man. Don't you think for 1 minute that things just happen for a reason. You know, I had a situation 7 years ago, 2017. I'm getting ready to speak down at the rites of passage for my same daughter that's coming in from the airline. They were getting ready to come in. This was their rites of passage, all right? And I'm at the I fall out. You understand? And nobody know what it was. And because I was formerly asthmatic, they thought it had something to do with my asthma. You understand what I'm saying? So I laid there, man. They called the paramedics in. And do you know, for 9.5 minutes, there was no nothing, no pause, no nothing. And then, matter of fact, they announced that he's gone, you know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, after 9.5 minutes, they got a bleak pulse, a bleak pulse. They rushed me to the hospital, put me in an induced coma, and I was in a coma for 4 days, right? And through that 4 days, the community, they started doing a global prayer service for me at like 4 o'clock our time. But globally, all the Hebrews, everybody stops there and pray for me, okay? Now, tell you what happened now. After 4 days, for 3 times, they tried to resuscitate me 3 times. And first time they said I just gyrated and they re-induced it, and the next time I just broke into this crazy sweat. So by the last time they did it, I came out of it naturally. And when I did, now the whole time this is going on, the doctors is telling my children that hey, if your father makes it, you can expect he won't be the same man. You know what I'm saying? Like that much time, he's supposed to be brain dead. Okay. So what happened? It finally, when I finally came out of it, I wake up in this, maybe about 9 doctors around the bed. You know what I'm saying? I started asking me different questions. You know, what day is it? What's my date of birth? A battery of different little questions. Everything one by one, you know, so I would gather my thoughts, one by one, begin to answer, right? So then after about 15 minutes, you know, they were on nothing. And the guy was like, he couldn't believe it. Now, I'm going to fast forward back to the brother I'm talking about and the element of this man. One day, it's months later, I get a call on a Friday, on a Tuesday morning, and a daughter tells me that, she said, I got a message for you, though, from I said, yeah, that was his name, Prince Horahliel. And she told me, I'm like, oh yeah? You know what I'm saying? I said, oh yeah. She said she had a message from Nasi Shalea.
Yeah.
Now he's been made transition years ago, so when she said, I'm like, I said, oh yeah? She said, yeah. So I had a message for you.
Wow.
No, I'm cool, okay, cool. So we go. She told me, you know, I meet up with him when I shortly thereafter. And she told me, she said, you know, Master Shalea wanted me to tell you something. That when you went through your trial, he wanted you to know he never left your side. He said he was on your bedside the whole time. He was with you every day. And I thought about it. I said, now while she telling me this, man, I'm like, in my mind tripping. You understand? Because she's telling me this very matter of factly. Very matter of factly, you understand? So it was to the point that I said, well, me coming out of it was enough. That was a miracle in itself. You understand? But for him to say that confirmed to me that was what you might call a spiritual encounter of some sort. You know what I'm saying? Of another kind. Because for her to call me, the girl called me, I'm telling you, she called me just as matter of fact as you could be. And when she told me what she said about what he said, there were a couple of things she said to accompany it, but the main thing was that he was letting me know that, hey, so things happen. As I was talking about consciousness, because when you go to another level of consciousness, you're in another realm. There's another realm that you that's here and it's omnipresent, but there's only times that you can really know that, hey, it really exists.
Right on.
You know what I'm saying? But because of the nature in our relationship, I was like his, you know, I was his son, I was his student. But we were like, hey man, I spent a lot of time with him, you understand? And the spirit, because he always would tell me, time and time again, he said that, hey, he said, my spirit will be with you forever, you know, because he was, like I say, just another kind of brother. Now, I ain't no guy, I ain't big on spook. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you though.
You know what I'm saying? On the real tip, you know what I'm saying?
No, that stuff real though. That stuff real, man. We can't. You know, some stuff you just is
sure.
That stuff is just hard to explain. You know, to the fact that people think that that stuff not true. That stuff can't happen.
Sure, it happens. And that point about community again, back into community as well. I remember, hey man, when I first got out, But I couldn't, man, I was hurting, and because my system had been shut down, and I could, bro, let me tell you something. I remember the first time Corey Roger came by the house, and he said, man, you gotta get out and walk, man, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm back home now by this time. But I really don't want to do nothing but just sit up on the couch and, you know, I just didn't have it now. And we walked, I remember, and you kid, from where my house is to the corner down there by the Nation store. Took me an hour. And now you know that ain't no way.
That's a short distance.
Man, listen. But then he started me on the trek. In 2 weeks, I was walking around the city. Because I said, man, this ain't gonna work here, not you. And I never forget one day I'm walking back, and one of the young brothers, man, show you how everything interrelated in this community, man. One of the young brothers, he walking one way, I'm walking the other way, and man, boy touched my soul. He told me this. He said, Doe, he said, I prayed for you, Doe. Bro, it touched me because, yeah, I know I'm the minister, I'm the brother, this, that, another, and all that. But for that kid to say that like he said it, it really meant something to them. And it was important because I know it was more of them. The young brothers I was playing basketball with, they said, Doe, and we would stop playing ball today, and we got to stop, man, we got to say a prayer for Doe. You understand what I'm saying? So that meant something for us, you know what I'm saying?
That's real, man.
Yeah, it's real, man. Yeah.
That show that community, you know, it takes, you know, they know that saying, it takes a village to raise a child.
That's right.
It takes a community to get people out of situations, out of hard time situations.
That's right, challenges, yeah, man. Yeah, on the real tip, yeah, man. That's real, man. Yeah, man.
That's real.
So I'm just giving examples, man, real life examples of things.
Definitely,
you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Yeah.
These are very good, you know, very good examples, man. Let me ask you this. Now, this is the last question I'm gonna ask you. Now, in your opinion, what's the future state of America? Like, what do you think the future of America holds? You know, just in your opinion, based off everything that you've been seeing, you know, around the world, everything that you've been witnessing over the years, you know, like, what do you feel that the future state of America is?
Continued calamity, man. I mean, listen, when we start talking about things like the end of the world and these cataclysmic kind of things taking place and whatnot, I can't say for certain exactly what's going to happen. But I do know this, man, that the path and the trajectory that everything is on right now, that something major going to happen, and from whatever happens after that, there's just going to be, again, there'll be a small amount that's going to withstand whatever it is, because spiritually, so we got to realize that America, first of all, has been spiritually dead forever. That's what, hey man, when back in 79, 80, I'm in America, coming back here. We talking, we in the scriptures talking about Revelations 18, come out of my people, for ye be not partakers of our sins and our plagues. Man, that was 40-some years ago. Do you know how worse things have become since then? It's unspeakable. And this doggone charade that Trump, this current Trump, well, and again, Trump can't be anything other than something, a spirit that's come forth to continue the downtrend of everything. You understand? I don't know, Brother Bilal, it's hard to say. With all the things that's going on, the iniquity, the sin, the state of how people are. First of all, how in the world could you have even elected a guy like Donald Trump? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm gonna be serious now. What about him appeals to me intellectually? Nothing, because it's very shallow. It's very clear to see that he don't know nothing about what he talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and just be saying stuff.
No, fact.
You understand what I'm saying? Factually. So,
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know. But when I say I don't know, I don't know, but I know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I
I don't know the way,
Yeah.
but I'm sure the end thereof is going to be, destruction.
Yeah.
You understand? And I'm not saying that. I don't want to sound like I'm a prophet of doom,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a very optimistic kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
But I just can't see anything coming good out of the trajectory of what I'm seeing and what I'm seeing in America today.
Yeah, no, right on. Regardless if we think, it's gonna go up through nukes or whatever, regardless of that, that doesn't really matter. The thing is that we need to start preparing for our own new world. We need to start trying to build
Exactly.
that,
Exactly.
regardless of what that situation is. I just wanted to get your opinion on that, because most people, they come on revelations, and that stuff, like you said, we can be biblically sound that
Right.
we missing practical.
Yeah.
Things,
Things you look at that practically. You got to be able to see it, man. You got to be able to see it, man. And I'm one that I don't try to be over the edge on any of it.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be balanced.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? But I know one thing, that I just don't see the trajectory of anything coming good out of it.
Yeah.
And then you add the prophecies to it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? That only qualifies the narrative even further.
No, right on.
You know what I'm saying? It's just the means and the way it's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But I think when it comes down to it, there's gonna be people. There's still gonna be people. There's still gonna be institutions. But there has to be something that's gonna change how this thing looks.
Yeah.
It can't continue like, look at Israel right now.
Yeah.
Now you right here in Israel, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But yet still, your audience 9 times out of 10
Mm-hmm.
on the date, or what was today's date, the 7th, 8th of
Yeah.
May,
Mm-hmm.
your audience, now what is it? It's the 8th of May. Your audience is looking at probably 9 times out of 10. In the media, whatever media they're looking at, they're telling them about Israel, it's in Gaza,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing with the Houthis and Yemen,
Mm-hmm.
all of that, giving the impression
Mm-hmm.
that there's something going on here that's very destabilizing.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? Now
War
you right
going on,
here,
we traveling still.
you right here, you ain't seeing a thing
Yeah.
to identify with that narrative,
Nah,
right?
fact. I'm right here. We are in Demona. I ain't.
You ain't heard of a firecracker. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have to see how they how they manipulate this whole global narrative of chaos.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Nah,
And Benjamin Netanyahu,
Mm-hmm.
he's currently under charges with the courts here about malfeasance, because he's a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? In terms of how he's done and over the years, you understand what I'm saying? But the people, our audience, they seeing things, they saying something else. He getting ready to go. Somebody called me yesterday talking about he's getting ready to come back to the States to talk with Trump. He was in the foreign minister was in Ukraine the other day. Foreign minister was down here about a month ago. You understand? Visiting the community. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah, because we keep a high level of relations with everybody. You understand? And we respect it. You understand what I'm saying? We respect it.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, our ambassador, the Israel ambassador, was in Ghana at our visiting our tofu factory
Wow.
2 days ago.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So
Wow.
we carry a very respectful posture.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But you're not hearing about much of this because the media is saturated with all this garbage.
Yeah, nah, true.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right on.
Yeah. But this is these are platforms. These are good platforms that you have here to bring the reality of things to people.
Nah, right.
Because that's what brothers and sisters got to really understand. The predisposition is about a lot of lies, a lot of deceptions, a lot of untruths. You understand what I'm saying? And once you get by that, you got to decipher through all that to get down to what's really happening. What's the real deal? That's why I'm constantly I'm constantly admonishing brothers and sisters to come and visit, to see for yourself. You understand what I'm saying?
No, right.
Don't quit going by the narrative. You understand what I'm saying? Listen, that things ain't what they be hyped up to be. And a lot of the stuff you hearing and seeing in the media, it ain't nothing but some hype. You understand? You see Brother Bilal here? He right there. You see me?
This ain't virtual. This ain't
AI. Virtual reality or whatever. This is not holographic imagery, okay? We're really here, you know what I'm saying? In the Holy Land, you understand what I'm saying? And when New Year Passover comes, I'm sure he's going to be taking a lot of footage of New Year Passover, but all these things are designed to encourage you, you understand? So, with that, Brother Toda, I appreciate you.
Man, I appreciate you, man. On behalf of the Children's Bread NGO, it was a blessing to interview you, man. And hey, man, I'm just blessed to be here and blessed to be in your presence, my brother. You know, and
Glory to God.
all right, man. All right, man.
All right, hallelujah.